Hey everybody, it's Mr. Roy. I'm back again. I want to talk about parent functions. This is going to be one of your tasks for today. So when we're talking about functions, functions can look a whole bunch of different ways, but it's helpful to kind of boil down functions to their key components and key ideas. So when we do that, we talk about parent functions. Now, parent functions are basically like the simplest form of a function that most other functions are made from. And most relationships we see in nature and in science and in economics and these things can all be described by looking at our key parent functions. So today you're going to use Desmos and you're going to explore that a little bit. So attached to the EDSB agenda for today is a PDF that looks like the one you're seeing here that says parent functions. We're going to fill a bunch of this out. I do not want you, and I'm going to say this again, I do not want you to fill out domain and range, okay? So you're not going to fill that out. Don't actually cross it out like I did here, but I don't want you to fill it out yet because we're going to fill that out later. Now, if you have printing capabilities, you could print this out. That's a nice, easy way to do it. If you don't have printing capabilities, you're going to need to do this on paper or digitally, where you're going to kind of like draw this up. Um, so it doesn't need to be beautiful, but it just needs to be functional and easy to use. I'd recommend graph paper if you have it. You can use those to make your sketches a little bit easier, although sketches not on graph paper would work fine. You're going to fill out as much of this as you can, and you're going to use Desmos to help you with that. Now, if you are feeling really strong with Desmos, that's great. You can probably kind of skip through this because some of this will be very familiar and very comfortable for you. If you're brand new to Desmos, that's okay, then you're in the right place. I'm going to be happy to help you with that. Okay, so we're going to be filling out as much of this as we can and exploring our key parent functions. We've got our linear function, f of x equals x. We've got our quadratic function, f of x equals x squared. We've got our square root or radical function, f of x equals the square root of x. And then on the other side of the sheet, we've got our reciprocal function, f of x equals 1 over x, and our absolute value function, f of x equals absolute value x. Okay? So we're going to put these, I'm going to show you how you'll type these into Desmos and how you'll get up a table of values and how you'll work with that. I want to talk about absolute value first. Absolute value basically just means turn it positive. So anything you see inside those two straight lines, you're going to turn positive. So it's described here down below. The absolute value of something is the distance it is from 0. So the absolute value of negative 10 is 10 because it's 10 spaces from 0. The absolute value of 20 is 20 because it's 20 spaces from 0. So we're looking at the distance from 0. So if you put something in there that's negative, it's going to turn positive because all we're interested in is the distance from 0. Okay? So that's our absolute value function. We can't have negative values because anything we put in there that's negative, like for example if we substituted in negative 2, is going to be turned positive. It's going to be turned positive by those straight bars. Okay, so that's absolute value. That's the one I think you probably haven't seen before. Okay, let's go to Desmos and do a little graphing. Again, if you're pretty comfortable with this, you can kind of take the fast version and probably skip a lot of it. So I'm at Desmos here. I'm going to clear everything off, so I'm just starting with kind of a fresh canvas here. Of course, I can scroll in and scroll out by using my mouse wheel, probably pinching or like using 2 fingers if you're on a tablet or a phone. And I'm going to use the desktop version, but a phone version should have all the same functionality, right? The app on my phone has the same functionality. There's the keyboard down here that I can use. That's also going to help me out. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to write my first function. Now, I actually have to write f bracket x, and it's going to kind of figure out what I'm doing. It has some idea. But I've written f at x, and I've named that function f at x. Now, I got to really pay attention to something. If I want to do more than one function on the same screen, I have to name them all something different. I have to name the next one g at x or h at x. I can't name them all f at x or it won't know which one I'm talking about. So this one is called f at x. If I want to do another one on the same screen, I'm going to have to change the name. If I clear everything else out, I don't have to change the name and I could use f at x each time if I'm just doing it one at a time. Okay, so let's type in our first one. F at x equals x. Boom, there it is. We got a nice straight line. So this is our linear relationship, okay? Now in our parent function thing, we're going to fill out this table of values. Now you could just sub in values, right? You could say, oh, I'm going to take 0 and I'll sub that into my equation. So when x is 0, y is also 0. And I bet you could fill that out just by subbing in your values, right? And then that would go fine. But let's actually get our table of values up here on Desmos. So to do that, I'm going to use my, my edit list button here. And it's going to say, okay, here's your function. What do you want to do? I can copy it. I can get rid of it. I want to add in, I want to convert it to a table. So I'm going to add a table of values. Now this defaults to -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. It's going to list those as our x values, and it's just going to plug them into our function. And you'll notice here's our function, f at x. Okay? And all of the different values are listed here for the y values on the right. Now if I wanted more, I could add another column and I could put in a 3 and it's going to do it automatically for me, or a 4 and it's going to do it automatically for me. Or I could put in a 75 and it's going to do it automatically for me. Or I could put in a negative 100,000 and it's going to do it for me. I can also, of course, get rid of them. And just have nothing in there. So if I try and divide by nothing, it says it's undefined. Okay, so I can type in whatever I want, and just by clicking on the next one, I can go to the next column. If I want to get rid of it, I just click the arrow up here. Okay, and so what that's going to do is that's going to put some points on there. It's also going to actually, if I do my table, it's going to show the points actually on the graph, which can be kind of nice and help me when I actually want to graph it. Okay, so that's our linear function. We're going to list our points in our table of values. We're going to sketch it on here. We're going to say if it's a function, yes or no. And then we're going to try and fill in as much of this as we can. It's a straight line that goes through what? The slope is what? Remember, slope is rise over run. Or you can just take the number that's in front of the x when we're talking linear functions. What number's in front of the x? It's a 1. It divides the plane. And now you can say graph in quadrants. Which quadrants are we graphing in? Remember, we talked about quadrants when we did trig. Is it quadrants 1, 2, 3, or 4? Which quadrants are we graphing in? Of course, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. Okay? So you're going to fill in as much as you can of the information that's not there. Okay? Do what you can, and we can talk about the stuff that you're unsure about when we do it tomorrow. You also may find there are some numbers that don't work, and there's little notes down here like why does x equals -1 on our square root not work? Why is x equals 2 not a good value to try to graph? Okay, so when you plug those in, that'll become more obvious. For our step patterns, if it mentions step patterns, for now you can ignore those. Okay, we're going to do most of our graphing using Desmos, so for now you can ignore the stuff about step patterns. Do as much as you can. Anything you're unsure about, it's okay to leave it for now. Okay, let's try graphing some other ones using Desmos. Let's try doing our x squared. So I'm going to change this. Actually, let's add a new one. I'm going to click the plus button and do a new expression. Now the thing is, it's going to graph it right on top here. So I can't call this f of x. I have to call it something new. The most common mistake you'll make is graphing two things and calling them the same thing on there. So I got to call this g of x. Okay, so I'll say g of x equals x, and now I can either use my keyboard and go the shift button and then upward caret, or I can just hit this one that will square it. So there it is. And now if I want to add in a table, I can do that too. Let's add in a table. Great. So this did it -2 to +2, but I could put in 5. I could put in 76, whatever, and it's going to give me that value. Okay, and I can see the points graphed right here. This is a quadratic. That's our nice little parabola. Okay. Now, if I find those are getting cluttered and are in the way, I can just get rid of them. And that way I won't have to keep changing the name. I could call it f of x each time. Let's do our square root or radical. Okay, for that I'm going to say f of x equals, now where's my square root? Oh, look right down here. There it is right there. Square root of x. And there it's sketched for me. How do I get my table of values? Boom, like that. And you'll notice there's some weird stuff going on. Okay, so that's my square root. You got to find the square root down here. We also want to do a reciprocal. and our absolute value. Let's see what those would look like. For your reciprocal, you notice there's many more terms, so you might need to stuff those in. You might not be able to put your -4 up at the top. You might need to actually on Desmos add it down at the bottom of your table of values, but it'll still be there. It'll still work just fine. Okay, so let's go f of x equals 1, and I'm going to hit my divided button, my slash. And it knows exactly what's going on already, so it does it for me. So there we are. There's my 1 over x, my reciprocal function. Let's throw in a table of values. Okay, and I could add more. I could add my -4 to get it. I could add my -3 if I wanted. I could add 4 if I wanted. Okay, and so I'll put those in on my table of values on my sheet, sketch what it looks like. And last but certainly not least, we've got our absolute value. That's actually right down here. You see an A with some lines around it. That's the one you need. So I'm going to go f of x equals, and then I'm going to take my absolute value, and I'll put x, and then I'll hit the button again to close off the absolute value. And then there's my x in my absolute value bracket lines. And then I could add my table of values. Okay, so that's taking you through Desmos. I hope that has helped. I'd like you to fill out as much of this as you're able. Again, leaving the domain and range blank because we will take care of those at a later time. Okay, so that's your activity for the day. I hope this has been helpful. Good luck playing around with Desmos. Try your best. If you get stuck, we have a lot of people in this class who can offer you help. So it's very easy in this case to put something in the chat and say, hey, I'm having some trouble with Desmos. Is there anyone that can help me out? Of course, you can use any of the breakout rooms. And if you need some help and want to ask for help from a classmate and want to go to the breakout rooms, that classmate can open up Desmos and then share their screen with you, just like we do in the usual way, share their screen with you, and they can show you what they're doing in order to give you a hand. So let's help each other out. We've got a lot of great brains in this room. Let's put them to work and support one another. After all of us are smarter than any of us. So good luck. Have some fun with it. Enjoy the graphing. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye for now.